Welcome to the LEC postgame lobby. I'm Drakos, joined by Caedrel, and none other than SK Treatz. Treatz, it's so good to have you here, especially on a day where you are victorious, where the team has taken down a top team. But before we get to talk about your game, before we get into the nitty-gritty of SK, I want to know what you thought about that last game, G2 versus Misfits. What are your impression of both these teams overall, just in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, both of them are obviously really good teams. They're both at the top of the standings. I think G2 had a good draft. I think they played out their draft the way it was supposed to be played, and I think they just looked sharper than Misfits today, honestly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was a bit back and forth. It was like junglers kind of trading off kills. When the game did feel semi-even, it was all coming down to those dragons, where eventually G2 just kind of out-teamed for them. I think Misfits maybe over-forced a little bit, but I can see why the GP pick works so well against the mobile carries of Misfits. When you're playing such a short-range mage like Ryze, Defios needs good guns to be able to hit in the first place. GP ult comes down, and then from there, G2 can just get the engage with Rakan. So it's quite difficult to fight against an Orianna Rakan GP combo if your carries are so immobile.
Absolutely the case, and of course, at the end of the day, only one player can get the key player of the game. In this game, it was mikyx. Across the board, though, solid team effort, and G2 steadily ramping up. Misfits still a bit of a wild card here. Some really fantastic games on stage, some bad games, but that's the top of the table. Those are the teams locked for playoffs. SK, you guys are in an interesting situation. It's a good day today, but you guys are, the miracle is not a strong enough word to talk about what it's going to take for you guys to make playoffs. You guys have a brutal schedule next week. How is the team atmosphere? How is the team mood? What's optimism like heading into this final week?
I mean, I think we've stayed optimistic like the entire split, even though we're losing a lot in the beginning, and I think we're still optimistic. Honestly, it just comes down to how we play, and we've shown that we can beat decent teams when we play good, or have close games against them as well. So I think it's just up to us. If we deserve to make playoffs, then we should beat the teams that we have to beat to make it there, right? And it's up to us, and we're ready for it.
Yeah, I think your schedule does look pretty tough. I mean, to me, it's Astralis are like the dark horse. I think that looking at their schedule, they're probably going to make it, actually, which would be crazy to see that team actually make it. But XL obviously won today as well against Vitality. The last week will decide a lot, but you guys just that one step behind.
I think a difficult position to be in for sure for you now, right now, Treatz. But I would love to know kind of when you reflect back on the season so far, coming into the final week, it sounds like despite what has been a difficult split, the team atmosphere, the team mood, as you've highlighted, is still very good. You guys are still very focused on what's in front of you. And in the game today against Fnatic, it really showed up in a big way. Is this kind of a performance that you're seeing for your team consistently in scrims behind the scenes, or is this a level beyond what you've even been able to achieve in practice, what we saw today?
I mean, I think it's always hard to determine scrim results compared to stage results. I think after we've been playing with Lilith more and more, we become comfortable with the comps we play, right? And I think today was no different. So I think it's not really, it's hard to say from scrims and stage. I think our stage games have been better than our scrim games, and we're just more focused in general. So I would like to say that's the case, but honestly, our scrims have been not very good. Also because I was sick recently, so yeah, hasn't been the greatest week of scrims coming up to these games.
I know that feel. I had a week of scrims in XL once in 2020 where we went 1-24 in scrims. You know what happened that weekend? We went 2-0, baby, and that was one of only 2-0s of the entire year.
I would really love, as an analyst, someone who talks about League of Legends, if coaches or support staff or whoever is responsible for this could figure out a way to make scrims actually translate to stage result. Because we deal with this every year, at the start of every season, moving towards international events, moving towards playoffs. We always hear about some team doing hot in scrims and inevitably, crashing and burning when it comes down to it. But that said, I would love to know, looking just for you specifically, how do you reflect back on this split? You're in a very unique position, obviously role swapping to jungle. How do you feel about the performance that you've been able to give so far in the 7 weeks of the LEC?
I mean, honestly, I'm going to be real. I think I've been playing pretty decent, at least to my own standards. I think the impact that I've had, I'm happy about, and I think it's shown to my teammates as well, and I think they understand the impact that I have as well on the early game. I think it's just that jungle and support are kind of different roles in the late game. And unless you're playing specific champs right now, jungle doesn't really carry late game. So sometimes we've had team fights where the impact of my champ hasn't been as high as, for example, on Alistar or something that I would play in Spring and feel really comfortable on. So I think overall I would say I'm pretty happy with my performance, but obviously I can do better and I can bring more to my team. And hopefully if we make playoffs, then I can show that as well.
And I think all of us are kind of just excited to see where you go next, obviously. kind of initially touted as a temporary thing, but just ready to see what you can do. Because obviously, huge playmaker. It's always been one of your big strengths. And I don't want to spend too much time focusing on week 8 because ultimately I think it is what it is, right? It's 3 games to go. So I think rather than letting us get into it, let us go into the nitty-gritty of what it means, the stake setting. Let's send it over to an expert in the form of Medic. Let's get an update on the LEC and the race for playoffs and championship point distribution with none other than Medic.
Thank you very much, Drakos. We are getting towards the end of the season, and that means things get a little bit complicated. And although we already have 5 teams locked into playoffs, how they get seeded into summer playoffs is a very difficult proposition to talk about. So let's have a look at where the standings are right now, and I'll try and talk you through things in a little bit more of a methodical manner. So every team that is in orange here is locked into playoffs. That means Rogue, Fnatic, Mad Lions, Misfits, and G2 are all playing in the summer playoffs. Astralis, XL, SK, and Vitality are all fighting to see who will get this 6th spot. All of these teams still have a chance of making it, although I agree with Caedrel that Astralis are the most likely to do it because of their strength of schedule. Next week, they have XL and Vitality to play, the easiest road in the final 3 games of any of those teams. But for this final lock position, that's really just going to come down to results next week. That's pretty easy for us to have a look at. What I want to talk about is how these top 6 teams will be seeded into the summer playoffs, because it's not just 1 through 6 equating to 1st through 6th seeding. So let's talk a little bit about championship points. Now, what championship points are they a representation of how well a team has played throughout the entirety of 2021. We give out points in spring for your final position. So Mad Lions getting the win would get 90 points, then Rogue, so on and so forth down the list. And then we give a few more points in summer to give a benefit to teams that are performing well right now that perhaps didn't perform as well in the spring split. So this is in the regular season where you end. This is how many points you will get. These points are added up, tabulated, and then whoever has the most total points over spring and the summer regular season get 1st seed going into playoffs. It is important to note, you have to be one of the top 6 teams for these points to matter at all. So even if you have a lot of points, if you don't make top 6 in the regular season in summer, you are not making it to playoffs. Where do we stand right now, and why are these so important? Well, of course, Mad Lions and Rogue have a ton of points from spring, which means even if they finish quite low in summer, they will still have a high total. Why this is so important is for teams like Fnatic and Misfits. Fnatic finished very low, 5th place in spring, so they only have 20 points. The maximum they can get out of summer is 120. So at most, they can be at 140 points. But Mad Lions can get to that really easily and could steal away a high seed from them. Fnatic are not guaranteed a top 4 seed coming into summer playoffs. They really need to finish the season well to make sure they get as many points as possible. The same goes for Misfits. They got no points in spring. They really need to finish the season well to make sure they get as many championship points in summer as possible. Because if they don't, it's quite possible they'll get seeded into 5th or 6th place and thus won't get double elimination and won't have that better chance of making it to Worlds. Remember, only our top 3 teams from the summer playoffs actually end up making it to Worlds. There are a couple of confounding factors when it comes to championship points. If teams are tied on the same amount of points, whoever had more points in summer will break that tie and will get the top seed. So if we had Mad Lions and Fnatic at 120 points, Fnatic would be seeded higher than Mad Lions because we want to reward recent form rather than form back in spring. For now, though, all of this is still up in the air. It's just very important that you realize even if Fnatic get 1st in the regular season in spring, they are not guaranteed a 1st seed. They would need Mad Lions to place 4th or lower. They would need Rogue to place 2nd. It's a lot of moving parts, and we'll try and keep you updated as it goes along, but I hope this kind of explains why everything isn't just settled by the end of the regular season. For now, though, that's it for me, and we'll hand it back across towards Drakos for the rest of PGL.
Well said, Medic. I am thankful every day that we never branded that Drakos' playoff checkup. That is so complicated. It's not convoluted. The system makes sense. It does what it's supposed to do, but it's just really hard sometimes. Of course, keeping an eye on another leaderboard that we are tracking, Kia Player of the Game leaderboard, Inspired in first currently, followed by VTO and Humanoid. I would love to know from you that the Kia Player of the Game is always going to be one thing, Treatz, but when we look ahead towards the best performing players of the split, when we start to look ahead towards MVP, things like Rookie, who do you have your eye on as the best performers this season?
I mean, I think the best performer so far has been Inspired. I voted for him last split too. I think he's just always a standout player in wins or losses. And I think he's just overall the MVP, and I don't think there's any doubt about it.
Do you know
for rookies of the split, sorry to cut you off, Mark, but I think, I mean, it's who's even a rookie this split? Is it Advien, Markoon, and is there someone else as well?
Lilip, Adam,
of course, Lilip, yeah.
Nuclear Int.
I'm ill prepared. I asked a question about rookies, and now I have not.
Nuclear Int, I think qualifies as well. I might be missing one or two. You can have Shigenda and SLT, of course, as well. But the question I was going to ask you,
question, yeah.
The question I was going to ask you actually, Treatz, is from my experience as well. You voted for Inspired in spring, but now that you've played against him in summer, does it hit harder of how good a player he actually is now that you actually play against him in his own role?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the players I notice the most are the ones that get the biggest advantage for themselves, which I think in my eyes, it's Inspired and Selfmade that I would rate the highest on that list. I think Inspired just does a good job of always being relevant in the game, even if his laners are slightly behind. He's always up in farm, always up in XP, and just always has a high impact. So I would definitely say that it hits a bit harder playing jungle, because even though maybe the early game goes even against him, it just feels like at minute 25, he's up 50 CS and 2 levels somehow.
Yep, I know that feel.
Hey, I'm just so glad every day that I don't have to deal against that. Because again, you highlighted it earlier. When you're support, you're Alistar, hey, the early game goes rough, you hex slash over a wall, you know, you set up a team fight, you win the game. When you're a jungler, you need items.
Guys, I need to farm, stop calling for gank!
Yeah, it's like brutal when you have to bail people out. But let's take another chance to look ahead at the Week 8 schedule coming up. And Treatz, I want to believe in the potential miracle here. Talking first about day 1, of course, of Week 8. You guys are going toe-to-toe with the Astralis. In theory, this is your game. This is the one that you absolutely have to win. If nothing else, you probably have to absolutely win them all. But this is the one that should be the easiest start, I think, for you overall. How are you feeling about this matchup specifically?
I mean, I think our last game against them was a good indication of what our early games can be against them. I think we had a super easy, just a good snowball game, and we just didn't want to win late game for some reason. So this time, when we reach the late game, we're just going to close it out a bit better, and that'll be it.
Are you sweating at all after watching these Astralis games this week where they're just seemingly losing across the map, but fighting constantly, coming back? They're like nail-biting games. Because I think me and Caedrel cast a mad game yesterday. Obviously, they had a crazy game today, too. And
yeah.
Astralis is a hard team, I feel like, to get a read on. Because as much as I think a lot of teams like you have probably said, hey, we got an early game lead, all things are going our way, Astralis has still been managing to find these wins.
I mean, I said it before to my team that it's so weird watching Astralis play, because somehow they're the worst team in the league, but they're the best team at finding random fights and just winning. So they're definitely a question mark to play against sometimes as well. And even though you have a good draft or a good early game, they seem to find these random engages and just win the fight. So I think, yeah, we're not underestimating them, but I feel confident.
I like it. Well, we're going to have to see. Obviously, that's the start of the week. You guys have 2 more opponents ahead of you. Now, before you go, you've heard of the PGL selfie. That's like an inside thing that we do. We had a different inside joke today that's hard to explain. And if you're still watching this, it's because you're a super fan. So we're going to let you in on the secret. We pick a random thing to do with our producer every week. Today it was bird names. Vedius was the Red Hawk. Medic was the Raven. This man was the Emperor Penguin.
Yep.
Ender was the Albatross. I was the Maltese Falcon.
Yep. Kevin was the Condor.
And Kevin, our producer, is the Condor.
So when we communicate to each other, it was like Emperor Penguin here for Albatross. Do you copy over? So that's what it was like on our side.
So the TLDR here is we need you to pick a bird so that you can, in the final moments of this wonderful broadcast week, be a part of the bird's nest. So any bird.
Can it be a league bird, or does it have to be a real bird?
Ideally, a real bird would be good. In anything. You know, you want to go flamingo for something more flamboyant.
That was the one that came to mind, actually, the flamingo. I like that one.
Quick shot is quack shot.
Quick shot is a
so
duck.
He's a duck.
Yeah, he's a mallard.
I'll be the flamingo then. I'm the flamingo.
Flamingo.
Okay.
All right.
So Emperor Penguin, Maltese, Falcon,
thank you.
and the Flamingo.
Condor and the Flamingo. Thank
And
you
the
so much
Condor
for
and
joining
Oris.
us, Flamingo Treatz. Good luck next week and what could be a miraculous run to playoffs. It was a fantastic game today. I hope you can improve on that success. But that was all from us. The weekend is far from over, however, as the LCS is about to start. It's TSM versus Golden Guardians. We'll be back next Friday for the start
Let's
of
go
Super
TSM.
Week. Don't miss it.
TSM.
TSM.
TSM. TSM.
See ya, guys.
Welcome back to Berlin, Germany, home of the LEC. Rogue have solidified themselves as the top team in the league, and our attention now turns towards the race for playoffs, which is currently dead even.
Waddle, 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 gobble, gobble, gobble. Lick him and stick him back to the fountain. The Dragon's down to 1700 the engage. Catches 3. That's gigantic, but there's not enough follow-up. There's not enough damage. The Dragon is secured by Mad Lions. They get the soul.
TPing into the top lane. It's a classic strategy, idiots. And Fnatic know how to do it. It's to die. That TP sucked.
He's looking for the flight. Gets the knockup for now. And Summer chases as well. Couple of Ren stacks available with the Crescent Strike.
Back and forth, flashes in.
Shockwave, Jankos on the chase, win becomes Lightning VTO, no flash to get away, and Jankos will secure the kill. Cannon Barrage comes out, Locket used, Mickey dives in with the charm, and here it's down. And for the 12th time in a row, G2 will lock their spot in playoffs.
Zenzara stepping forward, gets the shot.
And you ask me, Sansara Trundle, is it valid? It is valid, Trevor. It is valid.